All right, that's the kind of prediction I really want to go for. One and all, welcome back to the Elite Classic 2. If you're watching this live or watching it later, get your predictions in on what we're going to see from Jeanne this game, because we have got Vortix versus Numidan in a best-of-3 from the group stage of the Elite Classic 2. This series did not get covered. No one cast it, and I think that's criminal because although Numidan has been having a rough time, a hard time of it, he's still a talented player, and this still feels like the type of matchup where I could see him getting a win or two. I've watched him go up against Vortix a few times on the ladder. It's always a tough matchup when you face off against Vortix blindly in pubs, but I think Numidan's approach is capable. I think so far in this group stage, he's been kind of underperforming in my eyes, but maybe he could surprise us at a critical moment when it matters most. This is round number 4 for him, so getting some more points on the board, critical, paramount at this stage if you want to stand a chance of being one of the 8 to make it through to the playoffs of the Elite Classic 2. We start off in game number 1, Numidan pulling out the Chinese on Dry Arabia. Vortix actually goes Jeanne D'Arc. Now, this is interesting, by the way, because in the draft, Numidan had access to the Ottomans, but chose not to pick them. Now, that's interesting because, like, a lot of players felt as if Jeanne D'Arc was hard countered by Ottomans, actually, that you can do anything against them. So the fact that Numidan had the Ottomans but didn't pick it, it's almost like Vortix read it correctly, right? Like, it makes a lot of sense. I think Ottomans being let through seems to be something specific to the Spanish bros. It's quite intriguing. But the interesting part to me is the fact that when you get Ottomans, you don't want to pick them straight away. It's same with Rus often, unless there's a very golden opportunity to do so. You want to save it for something else, something later, so you hold your opponent hostage. Big shout out, by the way, to Fail Gain 1. I see you with the sub. Welcome to Swan, buddy. But it makes sense, right? If you have this Civ that can play multiple maps, you don't need to use it straight away. If you do, you're weakening your hand. Vortix read that, though. Jeanne D'Arc versus Chinese. This is a matchup that I feel like, you know, it's not 100% ease for Jeanne D'Arc, but you get to dictate flow in the early game, and that can be a big edge. We're going to stay on the 2 times speed here just for the opening of the game. I'm looking at the stats right now, actually. Jeanne up against Chinese specifically, a 52% win rate. When we look at the previous patch, where we have a lot more games played, it's a 56% win rate. So Jeanne definitely has a slight edge there. It's different than compared to the French. I think with French, it's more annoying to play into Chinese because you basically just headbutt a wall trying to break in. But when you play up against the Chinese with Jeanne, there's a difference there, right? Is that you can afford to sacrifice units if you're getting XP in return. And I'm wondering, how do people predict? It's a 3K split right now between whether we're going to get Jeanne Hunter or Jeanne Melee. And I just realized, actually, did I make the prediction too long? Oh, no, I may have. I'm probably going to have to cancel the prediction, aren't I? All right. No one put predictions in now. Don't be naughty. I just realized 5 minutes is too long because I've done the speed up. So, wait. Can I not close prediction early? I don't think you can, which is unfortunate. Oops. All right. Well, Hunter mode took it. I'm keeping an eye on that prediction. If someone adds in more points, I will cancel it. Don't ruin it for everyone. I'll just have to remember that for next time. We should have done 2 minutes, really. So it's going to be Hunter form. That was exactly what I was predicting here. For a start, if you go late game, Hunter form is just better than the melee form. So much better, in fact. You can snipe siege, right? It's a little bit different against the Chinese because they do have the bulkier siege, but you can still do significant damage. I also think against the Civ that you can't dive, that has high base damage defenses, the ranged form makes a lot more sense. You can more easily take units away. And a little interesting detail for you guys, actually. If you hit a Divine Arrow on a unit in the garrisons, it still gets hit. It doesn't dodge the shot right now. I don't think they've fixed that yet. You still get shot when you're inside. Personally, I'm fine with that. I don't know about you guys, but if someone's called a Divine Arrow, it should be able to find you if you're in a measly little house, okay? That shouldn't protect you. And yes, Hunter is definitely better against camper civs. Women at Arms requires things to fight, right? If your opponent's not going to give you things to fight, then this poke approach is 10 times better. We've seen it against HRE. You sometimes see it against Ottos that don't want to play the game. You'll definitely see it against Chinese. It feels also very good against the Chinese because they aren't going to build horsemen, right? It's unlikely, so your unit isn't countered. So like the early game reaction to going spearman is just better for you. Like most Chinese players will build spearman, right? That's the first unit they come out with. So you already now have a unit that does bonus damage against it. No kills yet. The interesting part to me is actually Vortix. It looked like he was targeting the villages, if I'm not mistaken. You want to be targeting the taxmen. The Imperial officials are the jackpot to hit here. Second TC is on the way from Numidan. Not really too surprised by this. Typically, you're going to see 2 TC play a lot. We didn't talk about the Barbican yet. This was a really smart play, going for the Barbican on the south side. He could have went further. It would have been better. He would have been able to get his access to gained access to the deer, both stacks, in fact, as well as the boar. The reason that Numidan didn't go that deep is he wanted to keep this connection point to the tree line so that his opponent couldn't wrap around him as easily, right? Now, if Vortix wants to go around, he has to go all the way around. So he doesn't have that 360 rotation on the starting base. Vortix at home has got his own second TC. Did not have Jeanne here for the build speed, right? Which is kind of unfortunate. If this is going to turn into a macro game, we go late. Who do I favor? I think it's really deceptive because you instinctually want to say Chinese for the obvious factor of granaries on full production. But I feel like you can never discredit the power that Jeanne gets when the game scales off of the consecration effect. And the fact that you're able to just snipe down Siege later on in the game. So I wouldn't say Jeanne is as disarmed as you'd think up against the Chinese. And you still have the potential, the opportunity to make your opponent's game uncomfortable earlier on. Nice little raid coming in here. Is going to chip one down. And remember, the Divine Restoration has been used, but it will be off cooldown 65 seconds. The second TC also doesn't have a hand cannon slit, so there's no quick kill on you. I believe on the other side, I wouldn't be surprised if Vortix considers a blacksmith quite quickly here. Instead, it's going to be a double archer range pump. Jeanne's still being a pain in the ass. I actually love that he's doing this. Even if he doesn't really kill many units, it's the idle time, right? You're so tanky, and this secondary TC does nothing. The damage is pretty irrelevant. It does 6 damage 7 times every X seconds, right? You can move in and out easily. So you're going to take, like, what, 40 damage, and then you're just going to heal it off. It's very easy, very cozy. And I prefer this. This is much better from Numidan. Shift south side with your eco. Keep it away from this. Realistically, this TC, like, there wasn't somewhere else that would have been better value at the time. He could have tried to drop it over here towards the deer. That would have been nice. But it's more like a buffer zone, right, on your berries to give you extra food down the line. If you want to gather gold, you're better off being here at the Barbican, arguably. Unfortunately, it looks like he might be one tile out of being in position where he'd be able to snipe Jeanne with the defenses. Numidan now going into the Chuganu, so we are going to see some fight coming out from red. Vortix, in the meantime, is still milking. Now, blacksmith timing matters a lot here, right? Vortix, if this fight commences and he has Steeled Arrow or just Undermesh, and the Chuganu do not have the matching tech, it should be a very easy win for Vortix, especially when you consider the amount of knights he's got backing him up here. He's got 6 knights right now to an 8 spear count for Numidan. It's a bad position for Numu to be in. He needs to basically, I don't want to say double his spearman count, but like 1.5x it, and then continue to add in Chuganu. This wall-in is kind of unfortunate. I think Numidan would have benefited more from walling between the gold and the wood line here because this area is fully accessible, and also these deer stacks are not protected by the Barbican. So although Numidan has some life to him right now, some food source, it's not going to last too long here, especially when you consider he's already exhausted all of the sheep. In fact, it's kind of crazy. He's already gone through them, and Vortix still has 8 left over. Kind of shows you just how good the opening rotation was for Vorti. So now he's playing out to the board, so Lifeline's going to keep extending here. One annoying thing I would say, like it's a bit of a scam on this spawn, is that the deer stack locations for Vortix suck in comparison. Numidan basically hit a jackpot. He got the boar and the double deer on one location. I can't think of a better spawn you could ask for when you're playing a game defensive like this. Vortix, meanwhile, you know, when he moves out to these pocket ecos, he's idling out quite a bit as he goes north and south. Jeanne? Ooh! Okay, that is obviously Jeanne's weakness here, right? Got to be incredibly careful about that. Archers are going to start trading out. Undermesh hasn't come in yet, which means you have to fully back away. So good hold there by Numidan. Actually threaded the needle before the tech upgrades came in. Had Undermesh been there, the Knights likely would have committed to a dive while the Archers traded. And at that stage, Numidan's going to lose that fight. So an important hold in that moment. And I've got a feeling that this game is not going to be decided in feudal. Like, the stage that we're at, Numidan, his military force is big enough to hold. Vortix, he wants to keep up the pressure because he's playing pocket ecos, right? He doesn't want to surrender map. But the likelihood that he's going to be able to break through here is very small, unless Numidan makes a complete blunder. Just going to bait him in range of the TC. I like this. It's the TC threat, right? The hand cannon slit's actually adding a lot of damage in. Steel arrow is almost in. Vortix. I feel like your play here is to try and find a way to tech up, right? But not in a rush. For me, the way I see Vortix likely playing this is you want to just gather a lot of knights and eventually go up with Royal Institute here. Like, we're talking 25, 30 knights, and then you go up. Might be a bit too greedy. He might be forced to go farms, but it should make you a lot more powerful than Numidan. Chiganu still just stabbing away at this. Siege of Ning is on the way. Spearman count. Not looking grand, not looking too healthy. Divine Restoration is still on cooldown, so Vortix needs to be insanely careful where he positions Jeanne here. Notice that he keeps pulling her back prematurely just in case the Chuganu sneak in. And a great fight here for Vortix. Numidan needs to reform the lines. He's got more Chuganu, but less Spearmen. Luckily for him, Vortix missed micro there. Unorthodox for Vortix there. Leaving 2 knights behind that way is kind of clumsy. Shouldn't really be happening. Not something you usually expect to see from him. But you see the weakness of Numidan there. He completely miscalibrated his military count. He didn't have enough spearmen to even contest that. He's lucky that wasn't a run-through. Like Vortix, I think if Jeanne wasn't so low on HP, that would have been a dive through the base. But instead, Vortix decides to back off, see this as a small advantage, and now we should maybe be seeing a ram being added in here. Vortix is floating a lot of wood. You could go for a ram to try and hit the TC and then just go for castle. It looks like instead they're going to just keep on adding into the feudal army. Rams to follow. Numu. A lot of gold being floated right now. Like he's finally getting into the food tech upgrades. I feel like you should be able to afford a lot more here. The military lead is now building, and that's something you cannot neglect to pay attention to here. It's actually quite a big deal. The reason why Vortix is all-inning on feudal again, instead of this idea of just going castle, making this easier, is because he does have Jeanne, right? And Jeanne, credit to him, Jeanne has not died in these fights. She stayed alive. And she's getting ever closer to that fabled level 3, right? The level 3 that often GG's a game. The question is, once it pops, will it have that effect in this one? Chiganu. Front line that for a moment. Nice peel back by Vortix. Double ram is now moving in, but the spearmen are going to peel off to deal with that. And Vortix giving over a lot of ground here. Knights need to get in. These spearmen numbers are still a little bit too high for Vortix's liking. So looks like it's going to be a wasted effort in the end. Rams just thrown away. Yeah, Vortix, he has got the level 3 now, so he got what he wanted out of it. The question is, do you really have a reason to hang around now? I feel like you just go Castle Age and then go for the dive, right? Going to try now anyway. Jeanne's champions leading the way. Level 3 Jeanne means she's no longer snipeable, so Vortix, you know, if there was a moment to win the game, you'd think this would be it. Spear count, not looking too healthy, at least involved in the fight. More are on the way, but Knight count is struggling. Those health bars are not looking pretty, and Divine Restoration still on cooldown for 40 seconds. Chuganu will be able to push this away. Rams, in the meantime, should be able to delete the TC, so that's actually a really big deal if he can get that final wallop there. Well played, Vortix. This is a substantial lead. Guildhall on the way, level 3 Jeanne in, TC down, and Numidan still in the corner. That was impressive, actually. The way he played that, it looked a bit shaky. I felt like he was throwing away a few too many knights, but when the Jeanne's champions came through, it changed everything. The effective HP pool, the amount of hits it takes to take those units down, so frustrating. The only upside is you are playing Chinese, so you're able to do it, right? If this was any other Civ without Chuganu, you'd probably be looking at a GG push from that, because the men-at-arms are too tanky, but shows you the power of these repeated crossbows, right? Able to do 3 times the damage that an archer would have against that unit. And if you're wondering, like, with those fights going the way they were going, why would Vortix choose to just back away? It's very simple, folks. Like, you don't hang around once you have level 3, because it's a negative for you, right? Getting level 4 is not realistic off of back-and-forth feudal pushes, especially against a civ like the Chinese that will be scaling an eco lead. Tech up was rushed there by Numidan. You may have missed it if you looked away for a second. We have already got the clock tower up. Guildhall did just complete on the other side. And I love this. Vortix is doing something that I have been pleading for Jeanne D'Arc players to do time and time again. You know what I'm talking about, folks. It's capturing sacred sites. This is a lot of XP. You're going to get 50 per sacred site taken. Huge inflation towards that level 4. Jeanne? Vortix? Oh, no! Oops. The difference a tree line can make. Oh, wow. Vortix actually did just buy her back, didn't he? That's expensive. 500 gold down the drain. Doesn't feel great. That's a pretty big negative, right? Because that could have been your Steel Arrow level 2. We are still going to see archers, by the way. No switch over to Arbitrary. Hasn't got a reason to yet. Knights are going to charge in. Jeanne, no Divine Restoration to give with the assist, though. Spearman count, not looking that great. Only 4 left over. Knights are lasting a hell of a long time here. Numidan, he may not want the Chuganu anymore, but he hasn't made that full transition into mass crossbows yet. So losing them like this is definitely expensive. Oof. And Jeanne farming up a storm throughout all of this. Guys, we might actually have an insanely fast Mecha Jeanne. That's crazy. Expensive fights for both players. Behind this, we haven't got the farm transition yet coming out from Numidan, right? They're just playing the remaining berries, but they're going to have to gather a lot of wood. You can already see they're hoarding over 1,000. The granary drop should be coming in about the next 30 seconds, or you're going to flatline on food. The deer stack, I think they have like 1 left over here, only 64, and the berries are down to the last 2. So, mass farms on the way at the back. Numidan, the best thing you can do right now is insulate your military by using your surplus wood and gold into a few siege weapons. It's difficult to do right simply because you also need to be able to get the farms down, right? It looks like for the time being, Numidan was able to gather a bit of food off the front side here, but with this many knights in the neighborhood, it doesn't feel like the type of thing that you can stick to long term here. So we'll have to back away. Spearman count is rebooming. Vortix, still just archers and knights throughout all this. I quite like it. You know, archers are pretty cost efficient here. Arbitrary wouldn't have relevance until you see a pass guard switch. And because you're building knights, your opponent can't go pass guard anyway. So it should only ever be spears. I'm going to say that. We've got like, what, 2 mixed in? But realistically, that's because he wasn't expecting more knights. Speaking of which, knights are having a hard time here. Trying to dive in on Nesta Bees. Villager's going to get clutch repairing, though. And Vortix, even though you are getting XP for this, you have to be incredibly careful, my friend. Your farms don't have the same scale, the same efficiency as Numidan's. Numidan, credit to him, man. Like, the fact that he has maintained the eco lead after losing that TC several minutes ago, and now he's going to go back for an extra one. So this is going to inflate him. Good read on the timings as well. I think if they went back for an early TC, again, before having the clock tower complete, before having the farm starting to be set up, they'd be dead. They just wouldn't have enough food. So that's a very disciplined read by Numidan. Vortix. Is he just going to go imp? It's looking like it, right? He's stockpiling some food. He's actually starting to just gather it all together. So we're looking at a fast Imperial timing now for Vortix after dallying around in Castle. Interesting choice as well, but makes a lot of sense, right? Your opponent is pretty condensed in. You don't have a solution to this. We should just now see Siege Workshops on the way, and that's what I'm expecting to be consecrated next. So the reason, by the way, why Vortix is doing this, before anyone's like, this feels like you're throwing the game, why are you letting China just greed up? It's because now with the Nesta Bees count being as it is, and the amount of knights you've lost, you essentially have no tool to deal with Nesta Bees. And it would be very foolish to believe that you could deal with Nesta Bees by just using Horsemen here, or just by going Springhorns, right? Those things are just too costly in this exchange. So Vortix, instead, opting to go for the Red Palace is going to give him access to shutter triggers and a solution to this clump of Nesta Bees that is building. Now, Numidan's reaction to this should be a fast tech up themselves. We might even see a clock tower, a gatehouse dropped around near the Barbican just to create a defense here. Usually it gets dropped on the farm cluster, but realistically, if you don't drop some defenses on the forward, you could just get flooded, right? So we'll see what the reaction is going to be. They've got a few units being queued up right now. Granary count is at 2, farm count doesn't match the granary count, and that you don't have enough around this to make it feel like it's a 2 granary game right now for the Chinese. They're going to have to rush this up, by the way. There's not any food left on the map. Last of the berries is going down, so realistically they need to be adding in another 10 to 15 farms in the next minute to get their economy to where it needs to be. So tech up complete. And this is interesting, actually, because Vortix, although he has the tech up, he doesn't have an immediate strike pattern, right? you've done this tech up. You clearly want to get towards shutter triggers. That's going to take time. That's at least another minute into the tech up. You have to wait. And this is one of the things I think makes it really annoying and difficult to play into China in the late game, is that China, because of the size of their economy, they can easily catch up. They can just hoard what they need for a tech up as well. And when they get there, supervision can allow them to match your tech unlock timings. It's something that I've always found quite vexing about this Civ. I think supervision may just be too flexible, right? I mean, China's not dominating, right? So, like, people are going to argue that, you know, you shouldn't be calling for nerfs, KP, what are you doing? But it's kind of weird to me that you get the benefit of 20% more resources as well as the ability to supervise military buildings. I almost feel like I'd rather see a separate type of official that is only meant for supervising production, right? Then it's an extra cost in the other game for the Chinese. But when you get to this stage, it doesn't feel as broken. The argument then might be that this Civ would never make it out of early game. And I think that's why we probably haven't seen something like that implemented. Yeah, pretty much. Economic official and military official. To me, it's really, really silly the way that the Civ functions, from even teching up from behind. Like, this Great Wall Gatehouse is going to come in. Between their resource gain and the fact that they can supervise their tech ups, they'll have all their unlocks at the same time as Vortix. Vortix riding in with a few knights. Not really getting a good exchange there. These sprawled outposts have proved annoying as well. So Vortix, with the few knights he has, not able to really dive in. And if you're wondering, like, why is Vortix not just attacking? It's because he needs to layer his economy. We saw the farms were coming in, but they weren't fully fledged. He still only has 26 farms. So it's still, until you're like 35, 40 of them, you're not really at a late game state where you can keep on pumping. Great Wall Gatehouse coming in exactly where we called for it as well. So Numenor feeling it. Smart cookie. It makes a lot of sense here. You just need this to protect your main base and your farm area. Sure, your opponent could wrap wide down to the south side, but you don't have to rush towards that. You don't have to be too panicked. This keep is going to protect there. Yeah, and look at what it's securing as well. Double gold and the stone. This is really good. Another thing that I want to give Numenor a lot of credit for, we didn't really talk about it, is the 4 relics he grabbed on the map. That's incredibly impressive, actually, from his position to get that much off the map. It shows you that Vortix was kind of overextending with these dives, right? Like, yes, he got level 3 out of it on Jeanne, but what did he lose out on in return? He lost out on permanent gold trickle as a Civ that needs gold. Stonewall has been scouted being built up. Nice snipes there. Able to just Robin Hood down both of those. So no Stonewalls going up here. However, that is now Vortix revealing the mass horseman strat. And people asking, what's the JD late game comp? Typically, Jeanne D'Arc's late game is Arbre de Trier and Horseman. Arbre de Trier and Horseman are incredibly strong. You could also think about doing Arbre de Trier and Men-at-Arms, but really Men-at-Arms are like meant, in my opinion, with that Civ for Castlage, not for Imp. But once you're in Imp, it's all about Arbre de Trier. Arbre de Trier is your lifeblood. Something that's quite interesting with Jeanne D'Arc compared to French is that this Civ is much better at scaling into Siege due to Consecration. You can see that these springles right now, you're getting 25% off the wood and gold cost of them. Right? This is a very cost-efficient Civ when it comes to how they get into Siege. Vortix queuing up Royal Bloodlines, queuing up those Gambesons, so we are getting into the Arbre de Trier now. It makes a lot of sense, right? Like, at this stage in the game, you're expecting your opponent to switch over into Palace Guard. We can see that Numenor is not doing that, however. What he is doing is prepping for guns. Oh, dude, the guns are a problem here. Arbre de Trier would usually fare all right against hand cannoneers. The problem is it's Chinese hand cannoneers with pyrotechnics. So the extra 1.5 range means that they can just snipe you down, force Pavis, and then move away. Vortix into a choke point. Tries to walk through. Nestabee should get a reload shot out here, so Horsemen are going to be heavily stung by this. Luckily, Nestabees are drunk, so most of them will be able to walk away, and now you've got an issue in the back of your base. Numenor did not get the stone walls up on the safe side here. Critical blunder there, choosing to go for the long wall because he was trying to set up for late game trade. Numenor should be able to react to this. It's just going to be a little bit annoying, right? Realistically, it might slow down your eco a bit, but it's not going to kill you in one foul blow. Vortix needs more to do that. Royal Bloodlines is on the way, however, which means these horsemen are going to linger a lot longer. In response, Numinon now getting into the Imperial Palace, though, is going to give him that two-legged cavalry effect for all of his infantry. Meanwhile, main army engages! Vortix with a two-pronged stab in here, looking for the siege, not going to be able to clear it all up, but almost got it all. A great read there, a great attempt. I love that idea by Vortix, just splitting the army of Numinon and then using mobility to be your biggest advantage here with the French cav. Stonewalls are at least up now, though, so Numinon says, no more of your shenanigans, Mr. Vortix. Oof. So food got idled pretty heavily there for Numinon, right? Like, income is looking pretty abysmal at the moment. But now we're transitioning. Heavy focus on the infantry. We've got elite army tactics on the way. Spearman count up to 33. And remember, this is Yuan Dynasty, so you're incredibly fast. With the walls up as well, this does mean Vortix's strategy of going horseman doesn't really work now. He needs a full switch, and it looks like he's prepping for it. You can see crossbow stirrups is on the way, so we will be going to mass arbitrary. Arbitrary up against this comp is really strong as long as you dominate the siege. The Nestabees should be the only thing capable of killing Vortix if he reaches critical mass of arbitrary. Of course, the issue is reaching critical mass of arbitrary in a game where you're running out of gold pretty fast. He has at least got the 4Ks down here. He did get one relic and has a sacred site locked in. He could realistically be locking in a second sacred site down here. Other thing I actually adore about Numinon's Great Wall Gatehouse position is it blocks Sacred Site as a win condition also. It's really important when you play Chinese that you don't feel like you're being forced to react to things, right? You just get to exist and reach your state of the game. And that Great Wall Gatehouse ticks so many boxes on allowing Numinon to do exactly that. We are now going to see a switch in the Palace Guard, aren't we? So mass Palace Guard and mass Hand Cannoneer. It kind of plays into the Arbitrary, so it gives an edge there for Vortix. But this is an incredibly tanky unit. The reason why you would go Palace Guard over Spearman here is the effective HP is so much higher, right? The Palace Guard basically having double of what the Spearmen do almost. Well, double overestimation. It's more like 60% more. What does have me a little bit worried for Vortix is that he's not trading. He hasn't even tried to set up trade yet, and I feel like that's going to be a very important detail because I could see this game going that type of length. I mean, Numidan's playing a Civ that doesn't really have to care. They don't have to come out, right? An interesting question coming in. Is anyone at the top using the extra reach of stone walls for ranged units? It's very cumbersome to use correctly. Like, stone walls typically are only put somewhere you don't want to have to ever go to. On top of that, another big issue is they changed the way that stone walls work with the protection reduction. It only affects the range damage less now, right? It's only 25%. The siege damage still hit pretty heavily, but it means like ranged attacks from low ground to high ground hurt a lot more now. The range is definitely useful though, especially with Pyrotechnics hand cannoneers, right? It puts you up to 7.5 tower range. It means you can snipe out longbows. But, you know, it's like, where are these walls going to be? When are you going to build them? Another issue is with the changes to the cost of TCs and the cost to castles, realistically spamming stone walls across the map has become less sustainable. Right? Like, you know, keeps used to cost, what, 100 stone less? TCs used to cost, I think it was 100 stone less. It really does add up. Villagers get found. Vortix, great raid here. Spearman on the way. Numinon's actually going to stand a fight with the villagers to buy time for reinforcements to arrive. Now, this is the one issue, is like, even with the Yuan Dynasty, you still have units that are kind of slow, right? Like, hand cannoneers are not exactly going to be zooming just because that dynasty. So there is a flank issue here. But once both of them run out of gold, I think there's no denying the player's going to be hurt more is going to be Vortix, because Numinon can just get away with taxation for a lot of his needs. On top of that, he has got 4 relics. So, although I like these kind of chip raids by Vortix, he needs something more permanent, something that would secure resources away from his opponent. Because, well, when you're playing French, you definitely need the extra runway. Still in level 3, Jeanne. Yeah, this is like the worst way to have to fight right now. Because the issue for Vortix is you legitimately are not getting any XP for this, right? You're out of range. And yes, you are correct. Stone outcroppings are also used to have more range. So it's pretty interesting when you think about it that way, right? It's like they lost 300 resources, and then on top of that, the things you were building used to cost between the two buildings, if you build one of them each, 200 less stone. So it's actually a substantial difference. It's 500 stone less than what you used to kind of realistically have lying around spare. Speaking of heavy stone costs, Vortix, losing keeps like this, not ideal. You don't have the influence, but you did have the ability to build champions. I think getting champions is quite nice here. Just give you that kind of go in and kill. The problem is, even if you could spam champions in this game, would you really want to against this? The Palace Guard are starting to break out, and this is where you need stone walls. Looks like Vortix, he's going to build it just in time. That would have been dicey, and great read here. Now Vortix, the timing on building this wall means he will be able to backstab this group of Palace Guard. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Horsemen riding in. Villagers get found. Numidan. I mean, at what point do you just wall, right? Like, there's got to be a point at which you just go for some stone walls. But they might be too late. Vortix breaking through, and now on his way to the farmlands. Meanwhile, that Palace Guard group got eviscerated. Level 4 Jeanne now in play. And this lady is a badass. 7 tower range. She can dunk on siege with 150 damage snipes. And then the Valorous Inspiration, just giving that huge juice up to your entire army. This turns Arbitrier into machine guns. You'd think that they're the Chuganu. Horseman now hitting the backside of this. Numidan, eco is shrinking down to 92. I mean, I don't know if this is Vortix's brilliance or Numidan's hesitation, but whatever it is, this is looking bad for the Chinese right now. What Numidan is having happen to him is what he's meant to be doing to Vortix right now. He's meant to be hitting the farms at the backside of Vortix's base, but when has he made a move? He tried once on the north side of the Palace Guard. That got blocked out by walls, and then it shut down. After that, what can we really expect to see here? Like, the map is becoming weirdly constricted, and what baffles me about this is the fact that Vortix is doing this with practically no walls of his own. This is entirely feigned aggression, reliant on the fact that Numidan doesn't want to run out blind. On top of that, Numidan has handcuffed himself, right? He's got 27 of his military into a slow-moving unit. Even with the Yuan Dynasty, hand cannoneers are not a quick unit. Then you add in the fact that 24 more of that is into siege, and Vortix has the perfect read on this. He's going to keep chipping away at his opponent, raiding him on the flanks, until he's ready for the main engagement. And when he is ready, that's where this clump of Arbitrier are going to bust it wide open. Crossbow stirrups already put them down to 1.75. You add in the Valorous Inspiration, and all of a sudden these units are attacking quicker than archers. We're going for it again. Horseman around the back. Yeah, so like one thing that's scaring me is Numidan. We highlighted this earlier on in the group stage. Like, one thing that has me a little bit worried for his performance here in the main event is the killer instinct seems to be a bit missing, right? The read on when you can actually go and end the game, do something. What he's doing right now is surviving, right? Like, what we're seeing from Numidan is he's basically being a DayZ player. What we want to see is a CSGO player. What do I mean by that? I don't want to see you surviving. I want to see you winning, right? There's a very big difference between the two. Horseman in on the farms again. Numidan, as soon as he's about to reach 100 eco, once again, he's heading downwards. These guys are tanky. 243 HP on each Horseman. Now, realistically, you're not going to run out of food immediately. But it's still an advantage that Vortix is now keeping. And Numidan finally has had enough. I'm glad to see it as well. Like, I feel like the longer you wait around, the worse. Okay, I've spoken too soon, haven't I? He's reacting to the Norths. I feel like Numidan's just dancing to Vortix's tune right now. Just peel off 10 Palace Guard and head for the economy. Like, at some stage, you've just got to tip the hat and accept this, right? Like, militarily, you should be much bigger than your opponent because your eco is smaller. Great snipe out there, getting all of the siege with no reaction. Vortix. What was he looking at? A little bit of a goldfish micro there. Does cost him dearly, but Vortix has still got these strong defenses to hide behind. And they are strong, remember. They've got the Arbalest emplacements, so diving them is difficult for Numidan. That's why he's taking this approach of getting into bombards. Unfortunately, those bombards, are they going to be safe? Looks like they should be. Horsemen Okay, maybe not. The Bombard's gonna die to this, right? Oh, come on, pathing. This game sometimes, most times. So villagers will be able to keep this repaired. Numidan should not end up losing this Bomber. He might end up losing the army, though. A slight overextension here. Crossbows stand their ground, and there's that machine gun. 1.37 seconds per attack. Cleans up the front side of the engagement, and now Horsemen able to reach in. Nesta Beast being targeted. Vortix, plenty of arbitrary left over. Numidan will at least escape with the hand cannoneers, but a lot of siege lost here. Not much really gained for it. Jeanne also just continues to chase. Love the fact that he's just continuing to just hunt this down, right? You have a lot of range on this unit, so pretty easy to just tickle away at your opponent. I do not know why that shows up as plus 11 in red. I just know, wait, what? That's weird, right? Like, there's no reason to... Anyway. UI bug. Woohoo! Numidan going to be able to push this away. This is expensive, actually. This is the thing you can't afford to lose with your Vortix, is Arbitrary. On Dry Arabia, the wood's going to last a lot longer than the gold, right? So, need to be very careful about overextending with your premium unit. Hasn't really done much to drain the reserves of Numidan in this game, though. That's kind of the frustrating thing, I think. Like, for people who are watching this game and they've had bad experiences with China, it's the fact that Numidan, even though I'd say he hasn't been very efficient in his approach to the last, like, 10 minutes, right? With the way he deals with raids, the way he looks to raid himself. Realistically, what he has is a lot more resource banked up than Vortix. See if that is going to remain the case in a few minutes' time, though. Horsemen need to be careful here. Hand cannoneers are on the walls, so someone asked for it, and here it is, Numidan. With the insane 7.5 tower range, he can just stand here, he can camp this all day and all night. Siege getting sniped down the backside. Jeanne has been removed from the equation. On our way back to the fight now, but that was a heavy insta-snipe down. Numu now with the switch up himself into Horseman. I love this. This is really smart, right? Like, so far, going into Spearman, you just slow reaction to what your opponent does. You clean them up, but he does damage. Now, you have a unit that can raid yourself, and you're kind of being cost-efficient about the gold issue. Allows you to afford hand cannoneers without running out. Spin those hand cannoneers. They're going to start to dominate these engagements unless Vortix can find an answer to them quick. Arbitrary are going to hold on the backside of this. Valorous Inspiration should be coming off cooldown soon. But you have to wipe this entire army. Like, if you cannot get rid of all these hand cannoneers, Numidan can afford this for several more minutes easy peasy. If you somehow clear out this 23, that's going to be pretty much like 2/3 of his gold reserves gone. I'd actually love to see one of these players just peel a few units and go south right now. We've just got this sudden grinder in the north side, right? I think realistically, Numidan can afford to do this longer, though. Look at Vortix's gold now. This fight is burning him. It's not pretty, it's not clean, but it is killing Vortix. And if you can't keep building Arbitrary in the late game as Jeanne D'Arc, you've already lost. Like, your Civ thrives or dies upon this unit. Right now, the hand cannoneers extra range with the bombards. Although the numbers are still maintained at 50, the fact that there's barely any gold left for Vortix is what is scaring me. Okay, no, ignore that. Wait, what? All right, ignore me, I'm blabbing. He never pulled the gold out. He has almost 10,000 gold sitting there. Good God. This game is not going to end soon, is it? Meat grinder continues. I mean, you're still up against a Civ that has 2k gold a minute. And I think if we're being totally realistic about this, try not to be too glib, but like, you're just going to die eventually, right? Like, unless you do something other than a meat grinder, I don't see how you ever are going to beat Numidan with this play. Vortix. Maybe more production further forward could help him here, but a lot of his units are coming from far away. Like, the archery ranges aren't as important. One other reason why I really like Arbitrary as the be-all end-all for Jeanne D'Arc is the consecrations. Like, if we check back at home, we should have a lot of archery ranges. Maybe not. I guess it's mainly the stables they prioritized. We've got a few over here, but like, there's some decent savings coming in. Are you kidding me right now? Numidan. This is very important, right? Because they've only got small clusters of trees nearby if they get pushed off this area. So really crafty of them to play north side of this tree line, just out of vision of the horsemen. Vortix starting to break through. Hand cannons are now in range, but unless Vortix targets them, these A-clicks are just going onto horsemen and cross and spears, right? I'm gonna speed this up a bit. This is a non-stop meat grinder. Until I see one of them make a different move, we are just watching them go back and forth. And we're just anticipating, predicting who's going to route resources first. Vortix did finally pull the trigger on the guild hall. He's got to spend a lot of gold soon. Arbitrary count is down under 40. Bombards are starting to move up. And it looks like Vortix is choosing to just prioritize additional horsemen here. Odd choice when you're up against this many hand cannoneers and spears, actually. Mangoes, I'd understand. Right, Mangoes hiding behind tree lines, maybe. But this feels neglectful. God, he's adding in spears. I think Vortix is losing this. Raid finally came in. There we go. That's what we're waiting for. That's why he's losing. So Horsemen are going to hit the backside again. This is what we needed to see out of Vortix the last few minutes, actually. It's the thing that has kept him looking in control of this game. So nice hit at the backside. Some Spearmen are going to react to start clearing this up, but still is chipping away. Numenor is probably going to go from about 3.5k food income down to about 2.8, 2.7, and that would put them more aligned with each other, right? Which is what Vortix needs for this meat grinder to ever work. Crash towards the sacred site again. Spearman count is not high, but the Nestipes, oh no. It's only one, but one is really all you need to scare the living hell out of your opponent here. And this game is starting to fall apart a little for Vortix, right? That raid was nice, sure, but look what's happening now. Stone walls are going up. His options are becoming more limited, and also he's now losing these consecrated buildings. These are not things you can rush to replace, remember. You have to wait a specific amount of time to get extra charges. So this just starts to feel like a loss, a permanent loss as your game goes on. Bombards continue the assault. Hand Cannoneers basically frontlining now, but the Arbitrary count is not exactly scary. We do see the Valorous Inspiration being used. This is the point where Numenor could consider backing up, and it is worth doing so. The Arbitrary don't have enough damage to kill Siege, right? Like, not instantly. It would take a very long time. So the best thing you can do is whenever you see this glow come up, pull away. Just walk away. You've got Yuan, so it's very easy to do. And now when it runs out, just turn and burn. Dude. How is it Vortix pulled out 10,000 gold from his guild hall a few minutes ago, and Numenor now already has more gold? This is just crazy. Man. So how does Vortix now recover this? Because this is just gradually trending towards an outright loss. I think you need to maybe consider putting some of that resource into Knights instead of Horsemen. Just individual units that hit a lot harder when they go raiding the enemy eco. Keep Horsemen for these engagements, but send Knights into the enemy base. Something that will kill the villagers quicker. Thrills now trying to snipe out Jeanne. An ambitious idea here. Not doing great damage. Despite the fact she's a siege unit, that's not how it works, right? The damage is calculated as range, so you're still facing up against a 60% range reduction. But it does some damage, so it's not a bad idea, right? Especially with the attack speed. Gonna hit the speed up as they've reset again. And it looks like we are actually getting mass horsemen from Numenor now. A lot of them building up. This is interesting, actually, because so far, like this game, for 47 minutes, the storyline has been, why does Numenor not just attack the economy of Vortix? Well, he may have just heard us, folks. He's on the move in a game where Vortix isn't able to hold on to any reserve food here. He's putting it all into constant production. So a small hit here, unallow, say, 3 farm clusters is exactly what Numenor would need to get in. Spear getting in. Vortix keeps the gap open. A few horsemen are going to ride around, but underneath the Great Wall Gatehouse, and with reinforcing horsemen, this could easily be chased down. What's important is the choke point. Needs to be a flood through that never stops. Divine Restoration gets pumped. Valorous Inspiration has also been used here, but it doesn't look like it's going to be good enough. Has to back away. Half his troops were not even juiced up by that. Mainly because of the positioning of Jeanne here. Pulls her way too far back. And Oh man, is that a big disadvantage. So Vortix, he got tricked there. The moment he queued up the Valorous Inspiration, the target fire came in, and he had to pull back. And folks, Valorous Inspiration is only a circle around Jeanne, so if she has to run away, your army is no longer being buffed. Vortix may have just lost the game. Oh man, that's brutal. Horseman on the backside did a little bit of damage, nothing too crazy here, but really what matters now is that Vortix is stuck in a meat grinder that he cannot provide enough patty for to build burgers anymore. Clearly, I'm in a hungry mood. Numidon, well, he basically just has the recipe for the Krabby Patty here, right? Like, the economy he's got at the backside here. He's hoarded up 11,000 gold. He's got good enough food income to keep pumping. There's no realistic world in which Numidon runs out of gold before Vortix runs out of wood. At least wood that he can safely access. And this is what I want from Numidon. I think, like, the way he played this game, I want to say it was kind of unnecessary at certain points. Like, yes, you have to be the defender, but realistically, these raids should have happened sooner. Had they happened sooner, this could have been maybe a 35-minute, 40-minute win. So although I'm expecting Numidon to now take the dub in game one, what has me worried for him in the rest of this series is what I highlighted at the beginning of the game. Where is that killing blow? Like, where is that decisive mentality that just says, it's time to go, it's time to win? He's finally seeing it now when it's obvious, when the writing's on the wall, right? But this is just one game. One game that turns into a meat grinder. In a series where Numidon, a lot of the civs he's drafted, I'm not expecting to get to this late game as easily. Now that he's here, I think this is undeniable. Another keep goes down. Vortix running out of defenses quickly. We're going to hit the 2-timer. See if he can get one more army together to try and man a defense. I'm not really expecting much here, though. Archery Rangers have been getting sniped out. Reinforcing units are just dying as they come out. And food still remains a critical issue for Vortix in this game. Villagers now running around. What? Oh, wait, are they here for the trees? I mean, that could just be death. Numidon is about to get hit by another raid, but the reality is, with his goal being what it is, as long as he has at least half of his food workers, he shouldn't be running out here. And yeah, I think we highlighted the idea of trade earlier for Jeanne D'Arc. Vortix just didn't think he needed it. I think he relied on the Guildhall a bit too much, but he just didn't respect what these hand cannoneers have been doing the entire engagement. I mean, the way I look at these late game fights, Numidon can more or less A-click them. Vortix has to be elegant in the way that he uses his abilities on Jeanne, in the positioning of his troops. Like, every single detail matters. Like, Valorous Inspiration right here, this is you in desperation mode, right? Like, you don't want to have to use it for just 20 arbitrary. It's simply a case of you can't wait any longer. Jeanne is going to be able to back away before she gets insta-sniped. Little interesting detail, by the way, folks. Bombards are actually the best thing to take down Jeanne. Their damage counts as siege, so Jeanne's resistance does nothing. And GG, because Jeanne will not be able to resist this. Game one will be a win for Numidon. Something that he desperately needed in this tournament, right? Like, his group stage has been looking ugly. And what a player to take it from. Vortix, definitely one of the most challenging opponents in the group. Numidon finally comes to life when it starts to matter most. The question now is whether he can remain alive or if he's just a zombie tricking us. Let's get ready for game number 2. So let me pull up the data now. Next up, Numidon, I don't think he's going to use the Ottomans. We're probably looking at... You can't go English, right? You have to go Abbasids, game 2. And then Vortix... If you know you're up against Abbasids, I actually quite like Japanese there. I think Japanese handles Abbasids quite well. You want to save the Malians for the English, right? And then Mongols might be your better hope against the Ottomans, because I don't feel like Japanese do very well against Ottomans. So let's have a look here. So we just had game 1. Oh, sorry, Holy Island's in. Yeah, it's definitely Japanese. Japanese versus English then, right? Yeah. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Interesting. I didn't realize they drafted Holy Island. I thought that would have been banned. One or two players, I think, have started to wake up and started to ban Holy Island away from the Spanish Bros because they want it. They have this very elegant approach to their draft where typically they'll lock in the Delhi and the Japanese by banning one or the other. And it's proven very successful so far. But We'll see how it does against the English. You know, I think I was saying if there's one civ that maybe stands a chance of dealing with the Japanese on Holy Island, possibly the English with a focus on land. Let's see if it works out. Let's hop into the second game of this best of 3. Numidan, a surprising match point starter for him up against Vortix, but now Vortix with a powerful civ capable of evening this up. 2 villagers immediately. Oh, sorry, 1 villager. Interesting. Sometimes they pull 2. So it's going to be 1 villager pulling out to drop the dock now. Other side of this, Numidan's going to do the same. So no rush towards Fuel Age coming out from Numu. And we haven't got a Rax opener because they've gone onto water. A little bit surprised by this. I figured if this was going to work, if there was any value in the English here, it would be off the idea of either the Dark Age Men-at-Arms or it was going to be off of the play into some sort of villager shortbow outpost rush. Maybe longbows as a rush, but this to me feels neglectful by Numidan. I think if you went for a Rax, sent a Men-at-Arms across here, just camped 1 on each gold line, you could ruin Vortix's day. Instead, you're choosing to contest fishing with a civ that is just better than you at this, right? Like, it's actually, this matchup is like the most clear for fishing, where the Japanese get this ridiculous discount, right? It's like 40%. As the English, you get a 10% discount on your building, on your ships. Now, that's going to matter for the English as the game goes on, and feudal it just is better for you, right? The negative of what's about to happen here is that the Japanese are going to have more fishing boats and a quicker tech timing into feudal. So that's a disadvantage for you. It means the English aren't getting one of the strongest points in the game first. One thing that I'm curious about in this game, though, is whether we're going to be looking at Coca Townships, because the Coca Township up against the English, it feels like the worst matchup possible to build Shinobi into, right? Like, your opponent can get longbows quite easily. They always end up dropping the Council Hall. Maybe Vortix does it as a gamble, hoping that it's going to be an Abiv Kings build here. And I don't feel like Kura Storehouse is that much more valuable for you. So, yeah, it is going to be the Coca. Okay, we'll remain on the 5 times until we are into feudal for both. But you see the difference I'm talking about here. Like, remember, we're on 2 times speed now, and look at how long this is going. Vortix is already halfway towards Coca done. Numidan hasn't even started the landmark yet. This is the power of the Japanese. When you're this many fishing boats in, the savings they've made, 7 fishing boats, saving 30 on each, that's 210 resources less. Council Hall now on the way for Numidan. So the first Shinobi is going to be out before the Council Hall is complete, right? That is a decent advantage. That could allow you to block out the dock. Looks like Numidan already anticipated this, though. Second dock is coming in. Very smart. Might even be worth considering a third dock just to guarantee that you can't be blocked out by Shinobi spam. But I'd argue like a few longbows can achieve a similar thing to what a third dock would do here. And then it gives you a pivot, right? Like, you're killing the Shinobi that threaten you, and then also you have a way of raiding land. Second dock also already dropped for Vortix. A lot more fishing being added in. Interesting question, actually, about the Kura Storehouse. Isn't the Kura Storehouse good if you just clog it and get wood for water? Yes, but the issue is you're going to clog it so much, you're going to be missing out for about 5 minutes before you get passive wood. On top of that, you have this awkward issue where you've just given up one of your biggest advantages on water hybrid maps, which is sabotaging, disabling your opponent from producing. And yes, Gully is correct that you have the extra range. It used to be Admiralty, but yeah, there you go, over there. 500 resources to get the extra range. But there's multiple issues here. 1, it's 500 resources, for the love of God. 2, there's still the issue of economy. Your economy is just so much worse off in the first 10 minutes than the Japanese on water hybrid maps. Shinobi, looks like he's going to get sniped out there. So that was unfortunate. Vortix, to gain range to sabo the dock, he actually had to use Shinshin, which means the 1 longbow, 2 longbows now, 1 to kill him, was able to clear that up with the assistance of the Springald. Once we're at like 3 or 4 longbows, Vortix can't play Shinobi anymore. In fact, what's more interesting is... Oh my... Dude. He's going Castle Age. Right? No. The way he's macroing... I like it. I actually really like it here. I think it's really smart because Numidan is already shown his hand, right? He's added longbows, he's added racks. He built 1 or 2 military vessels here, but he's still behind you on fishing, right? He has to add in more. Like, you've got 8 versus 13 now. Make that 15 fishing boats for the Japanese. Okay, this is a wild build, and I love it. Vortix might have to drop stables to build 1-2 horsemen. Might not even care about it though, right? Like the way that his base is laid out, he has perfect room here and here for the floating gate and the building he wants to drop off into, which is gonna likely be Onabagisha here. Also love the way that Vortix has chopped the tree line. Notice that he's already shifted a few trees in. Needs to shift these people back across. Your goal is basically to just get deep so that the English Lombos can't reach in because they can see you. Double outpost here, of course, already able to get arrow slits, courtesy of the fact that when you gather gold, you get stone. Now, this is actually a sick build. Numidon has to be seething at this. Like, when he sees this replay layer, I would not be happy if I was him. Like, with what my opponent has done to me, the fact that I got baited, I thought it was going to be water. At this point, Numidon's probably, like, a little bit paranoid about what's happening on water. I'd say the mistake from Numidon in this game is the fact that he hasn't even looked to find out what the hell's going on. I just realized, sorry, I had not pressed insert, so when we switched colors, switched size, the colors were getting weird. But, dude, this is crazy. And Vortix now, because it's going to show military on C again, Numidon's going to get paranoid, right? He won't attack. He'll just stay here and guard. I feel like Numidon's issue is like his own predictable style is being used against him. It's weird as well because like on land map, on the ladder rather, what I've been seeing out of Numidon, he's a very aggressive player. He understands how to gap close. He understands win condition timings. But in the tournament games we've watched so far, I'd say he's been more complacent. He's been a little bit too chill. I don't know if that's because he's showing a bit too much respect to Vortix, one of the greatest players we have on Holy Island, right? Like his approach to Navy warfare is insane. But whatever it is, it's looking like it's going to cost him game number 2. Flown get out in the way. Stables as well. I mean, it could have been Onabagisha, but like, why not Mountain Samurai here, right? Your opponent has a handful of spearmen, a little ragtag group. He's nowhere near castle himself. His eco is less impressive, right? He's got, what is this, 8? Wait, really? 8 fishing boats compared to 18. Oh my. Alright, this is going to be a quick one. I think that this is, right now, 95% favored to Vortix. He'd have to make some pretty big blunders with his ships to lose now. Also, keep in mind with the extra stone he's now gathering, he can start getting arrow slits. In fact, yeah, dude. This is another thing why Japanese, like another reason why Japanese is OP on Holy Island, is that detail there. He already has the arrow slits, courtesy of the fact he was gathering gold. Both on land and at sea, right? Has those defenses. Villagers. I'm going to start torching away at this. Not really the most necessary things here. I think just gathering extra gold makes a lot more sense. Like, one Mountain Samurai can actually kill all this, guys. It's free spearmen. Oh, Numidon, no, not like this, dude. Anything but like this. Spearmen are basically already dead. This Mountain Samurai, with his brother now here, can clear this all up. So Numidon is about to lose land. It ain't even going to be close. Ram is at least moving in, but Mountain Samurai can now finish that off. The melee vulnerability, that's going to be quick. Quick than it can kill a Forge. And now they're pushing on C. Vortix is going to realize that Numidon's strong there, so don't overextend, but now you just turn it into a land spam. Oh, dude, what a surgical execution by Vortix in game 2. I think what we've seen here, game 1 to game 2, is Vortix fully understanding what his opponent's going to do. Like, the importance of playstyles can never be stated enough, actually. Like, that has been the deciding factor here. I don't think Vortix would have tried this exact build against, say, Marine Lord or maybe like a B, a player that he might expect to take like a more offensive stance on water. But against a player like Numidon, who I would say is more towards the turtly end of the spectrum, this was a perfect read. And yeah, this game is basically done. It's just, you know, it's in the oven. You know when like you're cooking a pizza and like it looks done, but you're like, I'm pretty sure the pizza's cooked. I'm gonna give it 2 more minutes just to be safe, though. I want to make sure it's baked. That's what's happening here. Numidon wants full confirmation that this is over. He might as well try to make a play on C and see what happens. He ain't gonna like the outcome though. King's Pass now on the way from Numidon. He would need to clear up the shifts entirely. The fishing is just too big right now. Arislitz is there, and yeah, that should be enough to scare Numidan away. On land, Vortix is just waiting for the transition now. So second Yorishiro actually is going to go into the TC, so he's scaling land eco. I've got a feeling that Numidan's about to lose water. Unless he can hit a miracle shot with the double demo. His fishing is just underwhelming though, right? Like, yes, he's got King's Pass coming in, but realistically, the eco lead is just insane now for Vortix. Does need a new dock down here just to be a bit more efficient. The fishing, like, you know, was kind of weird for both players in this one, the locations at least. Now pushback continues. Dude, no Navy upgrades either, by the way. Like, he doesn't even care. Vortix sees an opportunity to go here. Archer ships going for the shots. Explosives are going to be kept away. On land, the Mountain Samurai are not making their move, but the Shintos most definitely are. 2 more relics already on the way home. And Numidan, I mean, dude, like, what's your play now? You don't have demos to get in. Archer ship count's too high. Vortix is now queuing up mass demos. This is about to be a loss on sea and a quick follow-up of a land loss as well for Numidan. 2 demos have been queued, but with 3 Archer ships left over, I just don't see how you're able to push this back. Unfortunate game from Numidan. Looks like he's going to have to look towards the game number 3. And, you know, we've got some interesting options there, right? We highlight the fact that there is still the Ottomans, there is the Abbasids as well. We're likely looking at Ottomans. The question mark is going to be, what's Vortix's reaction? Is it going to be Malians or is it going to be Mongols? I've got a feeling it might be a Mongol pick. Did we get Mongolian Heights in their draft? Let me check, because the way they've drafted, it's Bridges. Okay. Bridges is the 3rd map that's going to be coming up. Yeah, Mongols makes a lot of sense there then. I could actually see Mongols being pretty effective. We already saw like Magic show how you can try to trade there to really force your opponent to react, and that would screw over the Ottomans actually, is if the trade's going on. The way you can position to protect trade and hit your opponent's base is dangerous. So Numidan, another thing that worries me is like you're going to be up against one of the most aggressive civs in the game, and you're going to be playing a greedy style. How's that going to work out? Because so far in this series, it may have got you a win in game 1. It definitely did not get you a win in game 2. I'm a bit hesitant to what it's going to do to you in the 3rd, but we're going to find out. GG comes through. We are now drawn up 1-1 apiece. And we will be having a deciding match here on Bridges between the Mongols and the Ottomans. And I really do hope, I'm praying for him, because I really want Numidan to actually deliver some impressive performances. So far this series, like what I've seen from him is a very turtle hesitant approach. You could argue that Ottos can do that, but I disagree. On a map like Bridges, where there's a trade post against a civ like the Mongols, with a setup that can allow them to quite easily protect half that trade route at least, I think you need to find a way of matching aggression, of being present. It might be that you're just not able to do that with a pick like Ottomans. Ottomans, in theory, if they have enough time into that feudal age, they can outdo the Mongols. But the problem is you don't have time. When trade is happening, the Mongols, they're basically winding that clock and reminding there's only 60 seconds left. So you need to move quick about shutting it down before it outscales you. Maybe Numidan's way would be to set up trade himself. Remember, you have got the Sultanate trade network, which just got buffed. But the difference is you will not get full distance trade like the Mongols can. Let's find out, though. It's time for the deciding game between these two. 1-1 apiece. Game 1. Making up, what? 80% of the length for this video. Game 2, a very quick one. Game 3 will be one or the other. If it's a long game, it's a win for Numidan. If it's a short game, it's a win for Vortix. Let's get into the action. So, spawn-wise, looks like we've got gold on the forward. Gold. If Numidan wants to be greedy, he's going to have to set up outposts to defend this, which is going to mean he has less answers to the trade on the north side. His stone is at least safe. That's not too bad. And it's going to be the military school opening. So the reason why he's doing this is because, logically, most Mongol players are going to go for a Rax drop. So you need Spearman to mirror Spearman, right? But I don't feel like you want to double down on this. I've seen some players add in Raxes as well. It just doesn't really make much sense here. Not without water, right? So, like, the only reason I think you'd want Rax is if you don't want to drop an outpost to protect the gold. We'll see which way he wants to go. Vortix is going for that Rax drop. The issue, by the way, is like if you want to turn this into a meat grinder of spear versus spear, it comes down to a race of who has more sheep. So that's going to be the most important detail. In a game where your deer is also forward spawning, it's not something you can access, but Vortix can access his, right? So like the way I see this matchup going on spear spam is typically like the Mongols are just going to have the advantage and you're simply building enough spearmen to defend. It's different to when you see water maps because that's when all of a sudden you're able to get a bit of fishing in there and you have the life to this. And Numidan is going to be that Rax play. So we're going to keep a very close eye on sheep count here because this could simply decide this entire matchup. If they're neck and neck on sheep count, you favor the Mongols because the Ayyubid stone. If there's a lead of 3 sheep at least for Numidan, he can spam more sheep to contest his opponent. So there's a move mirrored on the north side. Numidan, this is actually a great rotation. He's getting a decent number of sheep off the map. Vortix made a mistake here. He dove past to try and go to the back of the base, and it looks like he wasn't rewarded for it. Usually you see the most sheep in this little area here. Interestingly enough, both of them missed a crap ton down here. So there's still 5 sheep to be claimed on the south side. Wow. The crazier part still, folks, is the fact that the only player that I expect to see them is Vortix. Numidan might scout too, but the 3 over here, Numidan more or less ran there already, right? Like, if you check his vision on the map and where he hasn't looked, that's a tiny area to cover. Vortix is more likely to dive back there. He would have seen that scout rotation around the back by Numidan, right? Like, he just saw him coming across. So, Vortix most likely should be looking to drop off sheep and heading towards the center. Vortix already getting the gold. Dude, what? Oh my god, he baited him. He freaking baited him. Oh, that is so smart. You smug son of a gun. Vortix, he dropped the racks, and the scout came by and saw it complete. So Numidan built a racks. He's built the military school already. He's spamming spearmen, and now he can't do anything with it because in this matchup, remember what we said, the Mongol player has momentum on early spear count. So you have to stay at home as the Ottoman player. Staying at home may have just killed him because Vortix didn't build a single damn spear. He just went onto the gold straight away and got what he needed. And now, when this hit comes in from the spearman, it's going to be too late to actually do anything. Oh, that is so sick. And, you know, like, the important part, by the way, is he built that racks really early on. He completely built it. He didn't, like, cancel it. Like, you know, someone's saying this is a Mr. move. Mr. does it sometimes, but sometimes what he does instead, he starts to build it and cancel it, right? That's not what this was. This was, like, complete it, leave it there, boom. Because if you didn't complete it, if Numidan scouted by, he might be a bit more hesitant about doubling down. But because he saw it complete, his logical reaction was unlimited spears. He's at least going to get a villager for his troubles. Vortix very slow on the reactions there. A little bit surprised that happened. But even with 1 villager death, the tech lead now, the fact you can get into archers, the fact that you've now got all these spearmen you can clear up, and the fact that you'll then have access to trade afterwards, is a grand old problem for Numidan. Oh, man. And what can you do about this? Like, you can't even dive in to kill the racks or archery range because it's too close to TC. You could try to go for the Uvu, but you're not going to be quick enough to stop archers coming out. In fact, nice read there. Vortix sends out 3 villagers. He should be able to get at least 1 pump of double archers, if not 2. He can even try to pull a repair off here to just ruin this entirely. Numidan behind this is not going to be trying that trade we talked about. It's going to be the twin minaret madrasa. Makes a lot of sense. I think the stupidity of the Sultanate trade network and why it doesn't work is it's the building you're trading to, right? It just doesn't feel great because it means you're not getting full distance compared to the Mongols. Their version, not only does it make it cheaper to build their traders, but they can also move the building to the corner. All right, Spin going to go back up. Vortix has been forced to go into archers. Numidan's reaction here should be to drop stables upon tech up. The problem is his tech up is so bloody late. His horseman timing, his supply timing is going to be pretty bad here. Vortix is even spamming in spears. Dude, this is such a sick build. I love this build so much, man. The spearmen now are uncountered. Numidan, reality is you have to go towards Sipahi here. Like, logically, your brain's like, oh, Sipahi. But if you don't build archers, this is over. He has no outposts up. The Mongol outpost is now on the way. I can't... Dude, this delayed Mongol outpost rush is sick. This is such a creative build by Vortix as well. Silvertree is now going to start pumping traders. So gold is now a problem for Numenor. It is going to be the stables drop. Unfortunately for him, it shouldn't have been the stables drop. He just doesn't know it yet. He saw the racks earlier. He never saw a spearman out of it. But Vortix is hiding these spears behind the tree line while the archers keep everything else away. Outpost. Third of the way done. Archers are going to start contesting this. Spin move in. Chase on to the villagers. Upgrades at least coming in for Numenor spears. But these archers are the real problem. He has no answer to. And he already built the stable. This is rock in a hard place. No, that doesn't do it justice. This is between a boulder and a hard place. That hard place being what feels like a spike pit right now. Numenor back fully up against the wall now. Spearman left to guard this outpost. Archer's going to keep a blocker on the wood. I mean, there's nothing that Numenor can gather here. He has no wheelbarrow. He's going wide to try and get on the tree line now, hoping that vision was dodged. But we're reaching a stage where this game could just already be over. If this outpost goes up on the west side, it's GG. And I mean truest GG. I don't mean pull 20 villagers, it'll all be okay and sing a lullaby to yourself. It's 8 archers, it's 5 spearmen. Numenor, he only has 2 Sipahi, 7 spears. Traders are at least going to be intercepted by 2 of those 7 spears. But now an archer's going to go up there to deal with it. And that means you're going to have even less military influence. It looks like Sipahi on the way as well, but I don't think the trade matters. Your base matters. Okay, this is crazy. Right now, Numenor has sent 20% of his army north side to defend. You can't do that here. Villagers are now being sniped. Army is looking pretty underwhelming. And Sipahi, yeah, move them away before they die. Every unit is critical here. Now Sipahi's at least going to get a pick, but Archer plus Spear on the way this time. Army in your base is still big enough as well. Numenor, dude, I want to vomit looking at this. 6 wood, 10 gold, 1 stone. Have you ever seen a player look so starved? Another outpost coming up. I'm sorry, what year is this? 2024 or 2021? This is literally just an old school outpost rush from the Mongols. On a delay, right? The genius of this is the way that he baited his opponent and waited until feudal age. This is the type of game where you get in it. This happens in your pub game, you don't even hang around. You've already gone back to the lobby, right? Like to play back into this, like you've already made a critical error that feels almost unrecoverable. Now, the army is at least going to intercept the trade defense force, but what is your economy doing? Definitely not working, that's for sure. Oh, man. 5 eco losses on both sides, but it's traders versus villagers, right? Villagers having more flexi at this stage in the game. It's going to dive towards the goal, but that's not going to work. And Sipahi's also out here with the meta, right? So the Sipahi at home do not have that attack speed aura. They do not have the ranged arrow armor upgrade. They have nothing. In fact, speaking of ranged upgrades, I'm pretty sure if Vortix just drops the blacksmiths, gets Steeled Arrow, this is over. Because Numenor has no gold access, right? So he has no tech upgrades. These Sipahi are very tanky, sure, but you know, you run into a line of archers peppering you down with +1 arrows, you're not going to feel so tanky anymore. Oof. Freebies being thrown around here. Sipahi are going to just try to counter the archers, but this is a bad, bad trade for Numu. Sipahi just trying to poke a prod with 6 spearmen in there. There's just no good trade to be had here. The only good trade is the traders that don't fight back. Everything else just feels like a brutal loss. Numenor now shifting north side. But the Khan knows. And that is going to be Numenor once again running for his life. Archer's shots coming in from the outpost here. Another outpost on the way. And that is it. GG called. The series will end with what feels like your classic 2021 outpost rush.